You won't believe what happened when a millionaire decided to come home without warning. Richard was a self-made millionaire. He owned several businesses, traveled the world, and often stayed in five-star hotels for weeks at a time. His luxurious mansion back home was taken care of by a small staff, including a maid named Grace. Grace was quiet, respectful, and hard-working. Richard barely noticed her most of the time, but she kept the house spotless and made sure everything was perfect whenever he returned. One Friday evening, Richard ended a business trip earlier than planned. He wanted to surprise everyone and enjoy the feeling of coming back home after weeks away. He didn't tell anyone, not his manager, not his driver, not even the house staff, but the surprise wasn't his alone. What he saw when he entered his own house made his heart freeze. Richard quietly pushed open the massive oak door and stepped into his living room. The house was silent except for faint humming. Curious, he followed the sound. When he turned the corner, his eyes widened. There was Grace, his maid, sitting on the grand piano in the living room, her eyes closed, singing a song so beautiful it felt like time had stopped. Richard had always thought Grace was just an ordinary worker, someone who dusted furniture and kept the floors shining. But here she was, her voice soaring like it belonged on the biggest stages in the world. For a moment, Richard didn't move. He just stood frozen in disbelief. The woman he thought he barely knew had a hidden gift that could capture anyone's heart. When Grace finally noticed him, she gasped, her face turning pale. She quickly stood up, embarrassed, and started apologizing. "I'm so sorry, sir. I didn't know you were home. I'll get back to work right away," she said, nervously wringing her hands. But Richard raised his hand and stopped her. "No, Grace, don't apologize. That was incredible. Why didn't you ever tell me you could sing like that?" Grace lowered her eyes. "It's just a hobby, something I do when I'm alone. People don't really care about a maid who sings." Her words hit Richard harder than he expected. For the first time, he saw not just an employee, but a person with dreams, fears, and untapped potential. "Grace," he said firmly, "that voice doesn't belong in the shadows. You have something special, and the world deserves to hear it." Richard couldn't shake what he had witnessed. Over dinner, he asked Grace more about her life. She revealed that she once dreamed of being a singer, but life was tough. Her family needed money, so she took whatever job she could find. Music slowly slipped away into the background. Listening to her story, Richard felt a wave of respect. He realized Grace wasn't just working in his house. She had sacrificed her dreams to survive. The next morning, Richard made a decision that would change both of their lives. He told Grace, "I want you to chase that dream again. I'll help you record your first song, get the right people to hear it, and if you're willing to work for it, I'll make sure the world knows your name." Grace was speechless. Tears filled her eyes. No one had ever believed in her like this before. Months later, Grace wasn't just a maid anymore. With Richard's support, she recorded her first track, and it spread online like wildfire. People were stunned by her talent. Invitations started coming from music shows, producers, and events. One day, as she stood on a stage singing in front of thousands, she spotted Richard in the audience. He was smiling, not as a boss, but as a proud friend who had witnessed her transformation, and all of it had started with one unplanned moment when a millionaire came home without warning and discovered the extraordinary gift hidden within the woman he thought he knew. So the next time you think someone is just ordinary, remember this story. Behind every person, there might be a talent, a dream, or a secret that could change the world. if only someone takes the time to notice.